Hi, this is Real World Audio, and I'm going to uh, continue a little bit about the journey that I started by continuing that video, Fork on the Road, High End or how High Fidelity, how to pick the path. So basically, I was exploring what materials you use to gauge your system, to direct the progress on how you want to upgrade, on where you want to develop. It will really greatly impact the results that you are going to get. And what I'm trying to get through is that if you use music that is acoustic music, that is not manipulated heavily, as close to the original source that was recorded as possible. That's, to me, in my experience, that is the only way to create a high fidelity system. And simply because, just think about it, when you listen to a music and use a sort of recording as your guiding measure, as your baseline, as your yardstick, that was recorded by maybe using, let's say, 12 different microphones, and each microphones were leveled separately. Each had a different compression on them. Each had different filtering, different effects, and everything was put together. They manipulated the phase, and what you get is probably very interesting and will sound quite spectacular, but it tells you nothing, absolutely nothing about the fidelity of your system, that how faithful, how accurate, how honest it is delivering what was recorded. I think many of us or many of you don't really understand this concept of having a baseline. To me, this is second nature because I am a research scientist. And whenever I do an experiment, having a baseline is absolutely critical. Without baselines, none of the experiments have any validity, because if you cannot correlate your results, you have no idea what you have achieved. Yes, we can always notice that there's a change, but what direction was it? Compared to what? And my quest is really achieving realistic music reproduction. And I was thinking about it, what does that mean, how does that translate, and ultimately you can achieve it by having a true high fidelity audio system. And the only way to measure fidelity is when you hear something natural, that is a human voice, a violin, an acoustic guitar, a drum set, and that is recorded, and then you can compare how it sounds on your system compared to how it sounds in real life. And that's where you can measure fidelity. If they employ all sorts of special effects during the mastering, then after that you have very little comparison. And you can say that, well, every recording is mastered, so we have no concept of fidelity. But I would say that this is not true at all, because the amount of processing and interference done during the mastering process is vastly different between records. So sometimes the process is that simple that they just record two microphones. So the entire session is recorded by a left channel and the right channel, and then the level, only thing that's adjusted is the level of the recording, and then it's digitized or it's sent to the cutter head. That's it. This is mastering. But this is one extreme end of mastering, and even more extreme, there's the direct metal mastering, and in that process they uh, take test sessions to establish what will be the maximum level. So they already set the volume, and then they directly send the signal of the left channel and the right channel directly to the cutter head to cut a metal master. And this process is called the DMM, and in that case there is no human intervention during the mastering process. It is just a direct replica of what the microphones, the left and the right, picked up. The other extreme of mastering, well, that's the one where it goes through an engineer, or actually a set of engineers, and each of them does their job, and they do multi-step processing, and the end result is highly manipulated. And you could probably listen to me talking about this on and on and on, and it would mean not that much. However, now let's just have a look at the Audiogun forum, and there is a GAD Prentice's post that he posted recently, a month or two, actually now 2 months ago, and I like to read it out and comment because I think it's important for everyone to hear a second opinion, not just listen to me, just yapping away, and who knows whether anyone can corroborate my experience, or am I taking you guys to a wrong direction. So now let's see his experience, what he has experienced. And he says that he's been fascinated by how your upgrades and components affect different genre. Okay, you know what? Let me just read it aloud instead of trying to interpret it, which is not going well. So, how upgrades your components affect I think there's a typo there. Affect different genre of music has interested me for a few decades. I used to have 3 or 4 discs I would take to auditioning sessions, influencing my purchasing. I noticed over time that while that music was sounding better, other genre at home would not sound as good. At the time, I was really into electronic. The light bulb went on. This is not a good ruler. Electronic is fabricated and I am making it sound good to me, not necessarily what the author intended. I listen to all music types, not just electronic. And this is what I have been trying to tell to all of you, that do not base your selection to a few recordings that are, although are your favorites, but they are highly processed. Because while you will probably enjoy those few recordings a lot, but everything else that you try to listen to will wither, and sooner or later you are, if you push that process, your system will sound so artificial on virtually all types of music that you will totally lose interest in audio. And you will also notice that even though you have specialized your system to those few tracks, but you start to feel that those tracks sound very showy, sound very spectacular, but there's something off about them. So over time, I realized the only music I could really use as a standard was acoustical, that I would have to hear it live and take recordings into audition equipment that were the same. Quite abruptly, the direction of my system changed, away from planar speakers and massive amps to tubes and dynamic speakers. All genre of music improved with each purchase. Season tickets to the symphony really sealed the deal, and over a few years I had the best sounding system. And now what I want to add to this is that my experience was literally the same. So when you have planar speakers and massive amps, that sort of situation will give you very impressive recordings, such as like listening to Diana Krall, and that's when you hear the lips, and well, like the lips smacking and almost like the saliva of the singer, that type of things. If you have especially like a female vocalist whispering, that sounds extremely seductive and spectacular on that system. However, material that is like largely dynamic, it will sound quite, I would say, interpreted and unlike real life. And when you transfer over to dynamic speakers, to me, that was also a life-changing situation. And to me the only way symphonic recordings and orchestral recordings sound similar to the natural experience is when you have very dynamic speakers, and the more dynamic they are, the more it sounds alive. And I have to tell you guys, it's not just the symphonic recordings that come to life with dynamic speakers. It's also the Diana Krall type of recordings, they have more life. And I noticed that she and other singers, vocalists, sound more like a human being. And the sound has less showy component to it and more honesty, more realism. It sounds much more realistic and closer to how she sounds in real life. And I cannot understate it enough that going to symphonic orchestral sessions, how big of an impact that does to the development of your hearing. I have gone to basically to hundreds of those in my life. I really love symphonic orchestra, but not just symphonic orchestra, all kinds of concerts, and really I love to hear my friend Táltos István Szapudi. He's a fantastic jazz musician. He has fantastic jazz concerts, and but when I compare the experiences, it's truly the symphonic orchestral experience that is the king of all music experience, because that's where you hear the highest quality music instruments, the most complex presentation, and also you have like a 50 to 100 musicians and maybe extra 50 to 100 choir members. So basically like having 100 200 people work together in perfect harmony, and that's something truly spectacular. And it's the most taxing thing you can ask from your stereo system, to deliver to you 200 voices accurately. And the only thing that can deliver that faithfully to me is dynamic speakers, because there's a vast dynamic range that that it is covered. No, that is not the only way to go. If you primarily like rock, then there is a known collection of stuff to optimize it. Macintosh Electronics and B&W speakers sound exceptional with rock, but not as much with some other genre. JBL and other speakers were suited for rock. I would say that dynamic speakers are extremely well suited for rock as well. So it's not like if in general dynamic speakers and tube amps are good for you, but if you want to have rock, then you have to go for other things. No, what he is writing is that Macintosh stuff and B&W will play rock very well, but not as much other things. What I can tell from my experience is that dynamic speakers play rock better in my experience than low dynamic, non-dynamic, I would say low efficient loudspeakers and heavy amps, because even though what we hear, unfortunately, some of the rock music is compressed like crazy, and you cannot enjoy dynamics on it, but a lot of rock is extremely dynamic. So, for example, King Crimson Islands, that album, the Islands album from King Crimson, if you listen to very dynamic speakers, the first time I listened to them in my high efficiency Zenith Open baffles, I was absolutely stunned and speechless because I had no clue that rock music can sound that good. And that's because a large repertoire of rock music really can use that extreme dynamic range. And King Crimson, they are one of those groups that several of the albums is just thrives on highly efficient loudspeakers. So the choice is yours. It is a lot of work to correctly improve the sound of all genre, but if that is your goal, then tune your ears to acoustic music and evaluate your systems based on it. Then you will most likely be heading in the right direction. Uh, he, he has the same advice that I have for you. If you tune your ears to acoustic music, then you are tuning your ears to faithfulness, to high fidelity. And you will reap the benefits what that brings to you. And the greatest benefit is honesty. This is something I have not heard anyone talk about this. Only one who mentioned honesty in music reproduction so far on YouTube was Larry at Real Hi-Fi Help. And he is mentioned it a couple of times in his videos that when he listens to a system, some may get him the impression that he is getting an honest reproduction, and others he's listening to it and he feels like the system is doing some tricks, like trying to cheat him or backstab him, like and it develops an uncomfortable feeling in you, and this sounds like a bunch of BS to many of you because most people don't even think about this. And what I talked to Craig when we chatted, he said that most people never even heard such high-level audio systems where you can really perceive these effects. And why I have my channel is to give you the tools, to give you the knowledge to create such systems for yourselves with reasonable resources that can get you to this extreme level. And I know that there's like all sorts of advices on the internet, and there's like a lot of things that will get you to very high levels, but I'm shooting way beyond that, and I really hope that all of you can experience it. And thank you guys for tuning in. I'm trying to find better words on how to describe these things, but it's not easy because literally almost no one is talking about these things. There is no vocabulary built up to describe these experiences, and I know you don't want to take anyone's words without hearing what he's talking about. And so for now, what I have for you is my experience and GHD apprentices experience, and you can decide for yourself what is the path you are taking, and don't try to overthink it. If you have something going on and you love it, enjoy it. And try to think about changes when you get bored or when you think that you need change. And if you want a pointer where to change when you are not happy with what you are experiencing, then my videos and then the knowledge I'm sharing will come in handy for you. If right now you are happy, then please do not take my words that you should feel suddenly unhappy with your system. Don't. If you enjoy what you have, enjoy it. And just store what I'm sharing with you for the future. That in such a case that you are experiencing such a system that I am talking about, and you will be like, it will be a paradigm shift, and then you will want to know how to approach it, and then you can go back to my videos, and hopefully they will be helpful for you how to approach that road, how to get there. And until then, have an awesome day. Bye bye.